biggest takeaway coming out of the game for me is just this is a championship level defense. They're one of the 2 or 3 best defenses in the NFL, and I was starting to get a little concerned that the Rams were going to actually have some rushing success in this game after they had like 42 yards the first quarter, -4 rushing yards the final 3 quarters. Dallas completely locked it down.
Wow. All right, so 10 years from now, Bobby Belt's sitting there sipping on some scissor, and we're sitting on the back porch, and I say, Bobby, what made the Cowboys 2022 defense so great? What would you say? How would you break them down?
Honestly, I think it's just talent meeting coaching. They have incredibly talented players, and Dan Quinn knows how to use all of them. I mean, a good example of it is there was all this discussion about, man, how is he going to use these 3 safeties together? How are Curse, Hooker, and Wilson going to be able to get on the field? And he got all of them on the field. And one of the ways that, I had theorized was, maybe you're going to end up having to take Anthony Barr off the field a little bit. He still was able to keep Anthony Barr on the field for a lot of the day. This defensive line, the way they generate pressure is really impressive. For example, I believe it was the 2012 season, the Cowboys had 68 quarterback hits on the year, and they are 5 weeks through the season. I think they're up to 48 now. And so, they are getting to the quarterback at an absolutely insane rate. And, I had mentioned before the game on the pregame show that, look, the Cowboys have faced some, really struggling offensive lines who are giving up a lot of pressure. And I think it's time we recognize. I think it's just time we recognize that they're contributing a lot to those gaudy numbers for those offensive lines of the pressure rates that they're giving up, is because they are just in the backfield every single. Oso Odighizuwa, they could not block him yesterday. He had 4 or 5 quarterback hits, and I think he played something like 30 snaps. He also was in the backfield on run plays, and so they just have a really strong front, and they've got playmakers in the secondary, including Trayvon Diggs. Choppy, they've got
he
a
made
lot
great
of
plays for the Rams yesterday.
There.
It was tremendous.
Choppy. I don't know what Trayvon Diggs did to you. It's like the opposite of me with Dak Prescott.
How do you view Diggs' game yesterday?
I mean, look, was it, he got caught in traffic on the Cooper Rush thing or Cooper Kupp catch. That wasn't great.
I don't really even blame him for that one. I thought that was good coverage.
I think when you watch the tape back on the Atwell catch, he just played it a little too conservatively. He wasn't really burned. He was just kind of lulled a little bit, but he had the catch-up speed, and he was, a half second away. He just timed his swipe wrong. His hand was right there. And so, he was breaking up that pass if he catches it. But I think that you look at the way that he covered a lot of times in the second half. He had a couple of good plays on Cooper Kupp where he had knocked the ball away. There was one on 3rd down in particular that I remember on a crossing route that he knocked away. I thought he played solid overall. But the stars of the game yesterday were just the Cowboys pass rush and the Cowboys defensive line and the way that they were able to, cause problems. And get into the backfield and break up run plays and force Matthew Stafford to get rid of it before he wanted to. Stafford wasn't terrible yesterday. There were a few times where, he was pressured and he made a play to convert a 3rd down or to keep a drive alive. That's a game that very easily yesterday could have ended in a shutout. I think it's a credit to the Rams' talent that they even scored 10 points yesterday.
You brought up the pass rush and how many quarterback hits they've had. When does it border on like this is a, because that number doesn't sound sustainable like over the course of the year, but like you watch this, I don't see any kind of fluke, right, with that number, with that pass rush number. So have we kind of hit the point where it's like, okay, forget about the sustainability numbers. Like this is something different.
Yeah, can they sustain 10 hits a game? Maybe not, but they can sustain 7 or 8. I think. This isn't just a bunch of free rushers. They are winning their matchups, and I think the scary thing is that, or the scary thing for opposing teams is the one techniques are starting to play well. The one techniques are starting to get penetration. Tristan Hill, Neville Gallimore, like those guys are starting to break through and are starting to make an impact. And so, the more that Sam Williams starts to come into his own, the more that they start using Dante Fowler, who's had a really good season, and Dorrance Armstrong starts coming into his own. And we haven't even seen Anthony Barr really rush the passer yet, and he can do that. And so I mean, my gosh, you've got, as Brad Sham said there, I loved that call, one-legged Micah Parsons running around, and you still give up 9 pressures to that guy. It's just there's so much that offenses have to contend for. And that's even before talking about the way that Dan Quinn likes to occasionally send a safety on a blitz or a corner on a blitz. It's a lot for teams to process. And I think it all centers around them trying to figure out what is Micah Parsons doing and where is he coming from. And that allows a lot of guys to win their matchups and have the attention drawn away from them. And I think that's why a lot of this is sustainable, is because just the matchups favor Dallas so much. Now, yeah, are they going to run into better offensive lines like Philadelphia as the season goes on? Yeah, you're not going to get Washington. You're not going to get the Rams every week, Cincinnati. But they take advantage of those matchups when they get them. And when they're playing better offensive lines, they're still going to create a lot of pressure on that unit to block them.
Bobby Bell, Cowboys insider, back from L.A. on the Diamond Factory hotline. What stood out to you offensively?
Okay, look, I know everybody thinks it's a little nitpicky. They need Dak Prescott back is what stood out to me. I mean, this offense isn't sustainable. Like, I mean, you're not going to – the defense is great, and that's wonderful. And if all they're going to ask of the offense is to score 11 points every week – well, I mean, just make sure your long snapper can actually get the ball to the holder, and you'll win a lot of games. But man, it's 102 passing yards, and I understand there were some drops in there. Everybody likes to point to the Lamb drop and the Gallup drop, which were horrible. But Cooper Rush, he has trouble getting the ball out whenever pressure comes. If it can't be a quick early read, it's not going anywhere. We're talking about a team that had 12 drives yesterday, and 9 of them were 4 plays or fewer. And that was a lot of the same issue the week before against Washington, where I think they had 13 drives and 9 or 10 of them were like 4 or fewer. And so they're not sustaining drives. They're asking a lot of the defense right now. They're asking a lot of, big plays like a Tony Pollard touchdown run, or, a blocked punt, or a strip sack and a return for a touchdown. I mean, they were without that strip sack yesterday. That's a 1-score ball game again. And without that blocked punt, that was another, 3 that they picked up there. So the defense is putting you in a great position, and that's great. And Cooper Rush is doing a good job holding things down and being a steady factor. But they need to make plays on offense. It can't just be getting by and counting on the defense every single week to hold teams to 10 points. That's not going to happen every week. And it's certainly not going to happen in the playoffs.
Dak probably out for Philly with Rush playing Sunday night.
I think so. Jerry said that Dak is going to throw a lot more this week, which I think is funny. A lot more implies that he's been doing it, which we really haven't seen, but said he's going to throw a lot more this week. Dak was, saying after the game briefly with reporters, that he's day by day and there's a lot that's improving, but right now he's just trying to get strength and comfortability back. So it's one of those things where, like the Michael Gallup ACL, where, even once they reached a point where he was healthy, there was also the question of comfort level and how he was going to be able to mentally do what he felt he needed to do. Even once Dak is medically there, it then becomes about, like, does the ball feel right coming out of his hand? That's one thing Mike McCarthy talked about yesterday. They need to make sure that the ball feels right coming out of his hand. And so, we don't know how long that process is going to take to click once he's cleared. And so I think that this one, it sounds is trending more negative towards him playing, but he at least should throw this week. So hopefully we'll be able to see him do some of that in the quarterback school when they practice indoors. But I still think the following week, I still am a little optimistic maybe, but I still think that's a target date where you could see him coming back.